In this week's episode of Founder's Ascent, BJ and I will be discussing 10 books that we believe will change your life. These books pertain to self-improvement and entrepreneurship. Now, it's time to learn from over 10 founders. And book number one is going to be Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a personal development book that touches on how to build habits. We think it's going to help you because oftentimes we know what we shouldn't be doing, and sticking with what we should be doing tends to be very difficult, especially in the long run. Doing what you should be doing for a couple hours or maybe a couple weeks tends to be pretty easy. But doing something that you should be doing for an extended period of time, such as maybe 5 years, now that's extremely difficult. And I think that's where Atomic Habits really comes in. He talks about the minor improvements that you can make in your life to help you get towards where you want to go. He talks about a lot of different things like the 30-second rule or something like that, which is taking away friction from a task, making it 30 seconds easier. Like if you have a problem watching TV or something like that, you could take the batteries out of your remote and put them in another room. So that way it becomes 30 seconds harder to watch TV. You could also do it the other way around. If you have trouble flossing at night, then maybe you could just lay your floss sticks out or something like that on the counter with the bag open. So it becomes 30 seconds easier to floss each night. And so he'll teach you a lot of intricate things such as that to build habits easier.
Yeah, and really, I think the key with Atomic Habits is just being consistent and getting that compound growth, because you don't have to do anything like particularly well for 5 years to pay off. Like even a tiny improvement, if you're doing that continuously for 5 years, that's going to scale up massively, and it's going to be you're probably going to be hundreds of times better by the end of it, just because of how compound interest works, where just 1% better every day gets you like 37% better by the end of the year, and for 5 years, it's not going to be 5 times 37. It's going to be the compounding of that 1%, which is going to be an insane number. And so, if you can really focus on finding something that needs to get done, that you need to be really good at, and then just getting a little bit better at that every day, it becomes very easy to sort of achieve your goals when you're doing it in small incremental steps and scaling properly. And you can do this with anything. You can do this with habits in your life. You can do this with business, in terms of like networking and connections, in terms of scaling your business, in terms of production, right? This book has so many applications into every aspect of your life, not just self-development, but in terms of entrepreneurship. And so that's why I mean that this book was our first one we did on the podcast, and I think we've referenced it in every single other episode just because of how good and how applicable its principles are.
Yeah, I think it's an important one. If I were to pick one from this list of 10 books, it'd probably be my favorite. I think it's impacted my life the most out of every single book because you want to have extremely large goals. Okay. You don't want to limit yourself, but sometimes looking at those extremely large goals is intimidating at times. And this book will help you break that down and understand what you need to do each day, each moment in order to get towards that big, large goal that you have set for yourself in the end. And getting there is going to be extremely difficult because you're going to have to understand a lot of different intricacies to get there. And one of those is probably going to be negotiation, which kind of leads us into the second book that we're going to talk about today. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He was a FBI hostage negotiator for, I want to say, about 15 years. And he teaches with you in this book everything that he learned over that 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with how we as humans make emotional decisions. We, as much as I'd like to say I make my decisions based on data and not my emotions. I probably still do make a lot of my decisions based on my emotions. And Chris Voss teaches us how to appeal to another person's empathy in order to never split the difference and get what you want a lot of the time when you are negotiating with somebody else.
Yeah, and so where Atomic Habits talks about improving yourself and getting the skills you need, Never Split the Difference is getting other people's skills, right? It's getting other people to do what you need them to do to succeed by really, I think the key with Never Split the Difference in negotiation is you want them to believe that your solution is actually their idea. You want to make them feel like they're in control, make them feel like they're problem solving. And just as they're talking to you, you display certain problems that make them come to the same conclusion that you came to, which is you need this sourly or you need this to happen, right? And so if you can convince them that, and it's not even convincing, it's like if you can just present problems in a non-aggressive way, using how questions, not why, and um, just barely presenting your problems as their problems and making it clear that, hey, we're trying to negotiate and this doesn't work if I don't get this one problem solved, they'll solve that problem. And that problem will lead them towards the solution you want, which is how you get them to do what you want. And it's a really, really interesting book because I think Chris Voss might be the best in the world at this, which means you get to learn directly from the best in the world at negotiation. And it's impossible to get a book like this and the experience it offers from anywhere else, which makes it absolutely life changing.
Yeah, because a lot of what you're going to do, especially in the business world, is going to be negotiations with other people, like getting somebody on your podcast or something like that, or with marketing, getting other people to market your product and make the best deal possible. A lot of it is going to be negotiation, like negotiating with your children on what their bedtime would be. You're going to negotiate a lot. When you're buying a car, it's probably happening a lot more than you think it is. And so Chris Voss here is going to teach you the nitty gritty. He's going to get very down and technical, and he's going to provide a lot of examples. He's going to provide extreme examples that you're probably never going to be in with hostages and such. But if the negotiation works in extreme examples like that, it's probably going to work in your daily life, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
So,
and I so I'm actually going to throw in for each of these books an additional resource you might take a look at if you've already read this book. And for Atomic Habits, I think definitely check out Cody Aiden, Winning the Moment. He builds upon a lot of these ideas without actually ever reading the book. But while he was writing it, he hadn't read Atomic Habits, but he has come to a lot of the same conclusion and has added a lot of interesting methods that I think you could apply, like the bracelets. And so you can check out our episode 10 if you want to learn more about that book. For Never Split the Difference, my suggestion would be How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Um, that book is older, but it has a lot of the same principles, and it also sort of takes a friendlier approach. Never Split the Difference is definitely antagonistic, like, this guy is trying to kill someone, let's talk him out of it.
yeah.
How to Win Friends and Influence People is just like, here's how you send a letter to your in-laws, right? Here's how you talk with your wife and fix some problem. And so that's definitely the one, and two books that sort of can be additional resources. The next book, number 3 for us, is $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. Guillebeau. I always say it wrong, but really awesome dude, who takes case studies from dozens of small micro businesses started by everyday people and mostly with less than $100, and explains exactly what they did, exactly how you can do it, provides templates, everything you could want in sort of introduction introduction to micro businesses. This is exactly where you can go, where it's just focused on what's the bare minimum you need to start a company. It's just the idea. It's some sort of marketing plan. It doesn't have to be a ton of money. It doesn't have to be anyone else's money. It's just you can start a business if you have a problem that you can solve for a specific group of people.
Yeah, I think a common misconception is that you need a lot of money to start something. A lot of the times, like you may not even need money, like in order to validate your idea. And so in this book, he talks about a lot of different things. You know, he'll touch on marketing, he'll touch on interesting ways in which you could fund your startup if you have a lot of connections within your family or people that you met at your university or something like that. There are a bunch of ways in which you can fund your startup. There are a bunch of ways in which you could market your startup that he shares. And probably like what BJ was saying, in my opinion, the best part about this book is the case studies that he uses. He uses case studies of everyday people just like yourselves that had an idea and they made it happen, right? It's not like he's using examples of Elon Musk, you know, like the top 0.00001%. Okay. He's using examples of a bunch of everyday people that had ideas and made it happen. Like the dude that what was it, the mattress company, and
Yeah.
he was delivering them on bikes,
Yep.
which was a really cool example. And so if you have an idea and you want to get it started, I think this is a pretty good book that you should check out.
Yep. And if you've already read $100 Startup, my recommendation would be Lost and Founder by Rand Fishkin. He's the founder of Moz, SEO company, and it's a really good, brutally honest field startup guide, uh, uh, field guide to the startup world and how um, sort of really difficult decisions can impact your business. And it's a great introduction to SEO because that's all he really spends his time on. So that sneaks in there. And so that's a useful thing to know about. But that would be my recommendation for the next resource you should get a hold of.
Okay, and book number 4 here is going to be How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital, and it's going to be by Nathan Latka. This is an interesting book, and not all of it is about entrepreneurship. The bulk of the book or the main commonality here behind every idea he's sharing is really just wealth creation, how to make money. There's a part in the middle of the book. It's just a bunch of random ways you can get money and how to leverage your followers in order to get a free night stay at a hotel. I remember one example that he used was he stayed at a hotel for 3 nights, and I believe it was $300 a night, and I think he got it for free just with one post a day. So just posting once each day got him $300 per post, which was pretty cool. He was able to to get, I don't know what car it was. Was it
Uh,
a McLaren?
Rolls Royce Ghost.
Roy's. Okay. He got that car for a day or a weekend or whatever it was by leveraging his followers on Instagram, which I thought was pretty cool. But I think the coolest part about this book is the insight he had with entrepreneurship and how as an entrepreneur you want to be the person that supplies the miners chasing the gold. You want to supply them with pickaxes. Okay. In the gold rush, who became the most successful? Was it the miners that were chasing the gold, or was it the guy that set up a booth and was like, "Hey, I'll sell you a pickaxe for $5." The other dude that set up a booth and was like, "All right, I'll give you jeans for $10." Like, who ended up providing the most value to society? Who ended up becoming the most successful as a result of the gold rush? It was the people that were supplying the miners with what they needed to chase their dreams. And so he says, as an entrepreneur, starting off, you want to be the supplier for the miners. Okay. Becoming an Elon Musk right off the bat is extremely difficult. Okay. And so your first project is probably going to be something like this, where you're supplying the miners with what they need. Okay. Becoming the Elon Musk and designing the Tesla or designing the spaceship that gets us to Mars is going to be extremely difficult in the beginning because A, you might not have a team, and B, you might not have any money. And so this is a really good way for those of you that are starting off, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up Elon Musk because I think his first project was a software tool that became PayPal, like was integrated into PayPal, and that's literally a tool that's like a pickaxe, right? Being able to send money through emails is a really useful thing for businesses and for individuals, and so he definitely started off that way, and I think that gave him some 180 million that when Tesla and SpaceX were struggling, he dumped that money into those two companies and somehow both managed to survive. So, I mean, that's sort of tells you like really where you should start off with doing something that helps other people achieve their dreams. Because then when you've helped them, then you can achieve yours, right? And so
Sure.
that's a concept from $100 startup that is shared by this book, which is like you probably aren't going to make money doing your hobby, but you will make money helping other people do your hobby, and you'll understand those needs and wants in that space. And so if you just start looking for problems you can solve for those people and just help them, that's where you probably will make the most money is doing that. And the cool part about 100 about how to be capitalist without any capital is it has so much just practical real life experience in there. Specific emails, charts, graphs, spreadsheets, numbers on okay, this is how much this is making me. Uh, I think he said one of his best investments was a food truck, right? That he bought live on on Facebook. He bought a portion of the business live, and that's sending him like checks of like 250 a month, and he says that's like one of his best investments. And I think it's because like it's just automatic cash flow, right? He doesn't have to think about that. There's someone else running it. That person is being trustworthy and effective, and they're running a good business, and he's getting 50 cents a meal until he gets his money back, and then 10 cents after that. But like it was so interesting to see just the specific information about what these companies what his own financial stuff looks like, so and understanding okay, these are the specific rates, numbers, right? Very everything was very specific, very practical, and I think that's the value of how to be capitalist without any capital. uh if I had to recommend a book to follow up this one, probably 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Touches on a lot of similar ideas. How to Be a Capitalist is newer, so like when 4 Hour Work Week was written, it was a month before the iPhone got out. So when it talks about checking your emails on your BlackBerry overseas, yeah, just understand that a lot of stuff has changed, but the principles of 4 Hour Work Week are timeless, right? That's the literal goal. Spend less time at the office and more time doing what you want.
Okay, and book number 5 here is going to be Traction. It's a marketing book by Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mares. This book is cool because it teaches you about 19 different channels that a lot of startups are going to need to use in order to get off the ground. A cool principle that they teach you in this book here is the fact that you need to spend around 50% of your time working on your product or service, and the remaining 50% of your time is going to be spent on marketing. Okay? Because you need to get your product or service out there into the hands of other people, and they're going to be able to give you very meaningful feedback on what you need to do to change this product or service. Because you don't want to spend a ton of time working on things that you may think matter that other people may not really care about. So you really need to get it out there into a bunch of people's hands so that they can give you meaningful feedback and so you can see what works. Another thing about marketing channels too that this book touches on and does a great job at is testing these market channels. They say in the beginning that you don't necessarily need to spend a ton of time on each channel to perfect it, okay? Make Get the bare minimum off the ground, test the channel, look at the data that you have and see which channel works the best and then start spending a lot more time in that channel because you can make an educated guess on what channel may or may not work. But really, you don't know what's going to work specifically for your niche and how you're getting your product or service out there for that specific niche. So it's probably a lot more nuanced than you think it is. So at the end of the day, it's really just going to be trial and error. So
Yeah, and with Traction is a great reference guide because it has those 19 different marketing channels that you can use. And then it gives you best practices, it gives you case studies, it gives you um, do this, don't do this, here are some key ideas. Like it's a dictionary for marketing channels. And so if you're trying to figure out, okay, uh, for $100 startup, you said I needed an idea and I needed a marketing channel. Well, this is where you get that marketing channel. Just flip through them, take a peek at, if you like writing, then do a blog. If you like photography, then there's some marketing channel from you. Maybe it's you partner with a programmer and you make some widget that allows you to display your photos as a background image, and that links back to your site for your photography business, right? But whatever it is, like Traction gives you a lot of great details about these marketing channels that you can use like immediately, right? And so all of these books are really stacking up nicely where you have the negotiation skills, you have the marketing skills, you understand the business plan and the financial side of it, and then you also have the atomic habits to be consistent for all of this because this isn't going to happen immediately. Like I know 100% we could put get rich quick thumbnails and titles on this and everyone would be all over it, but we want to provide real value that you can apply immediately. And the moment you forget about getting rich quick is the moment money starts hitting your bank account. Because then you build some system that produces the Ferrari every day rather than getting a Ferrari once, right? Because that's what if you want to free up your time and free up your life for doing other things, you want that. You don't want a system that gets you what you want once. You want a system that will get you that continuously. And when you do that, you'll scale and do things that you can't even imagine doing beforehand. And marketing is a really great way to scale. Simply having brand awareness, simply having a large outreach and following can change so much because once you have an audience that you can reach, that is a competitive advantage no one can take away, right? If you have a group of people that trust you and support what you're doing, that's something that's going to be massively important for your business. And so if you've already read Traction, my recommendation would be Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. That one talks more about building a personal brand and small scale marketing, but it also explains the importance of once you find something you can be passionate about and found a marketing channel for that, the importance of being consistent, the importance of posting every day and creating content and focusing on providing value to people rather than getting value for yourself, because when you do that, that's when you actually start making money. And so that's the book I would recommend following Traction.
and then getting into book number 6 here, it's going to be Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And this is going to be another marketing book. It's not as technical as Traction was. It's not like one of those books that's going to give you a bunch of different channels that you need to try. It's not really going to be a reference guide. It's more of like a way of thinking about what marketing is. And hence the name. He talks a lot about companies understanding or knowing what their why is and getting that out so the consumer is able to understand what that company's why is. He says it's going to start with the why, and then it's going to move to the how, and finally it's going to be the what. Oftentimes, what companies do is they'll market their how or they'll market their what. But really, that's not what you want to do as a company. You want to market your why. When Steve Jobs was around with Apple, I think this is a really good example. They marketed their company as people that, like, if you want to be somebody that challenges the status quo, that's what we are. Like, that's why we as a company wake up every morning. If you want to be like us, then purchase our products. Like, that's kind of the frame of thought that Apple embodied when Steve Jobs was around. And I think that's a big reason why Apple was able to succeed. Why Steve Jobs was such a genius was because he was so good at marketing. He wasn't like Steve Wozniak. He wasn't the guy coding. He was the guy that embodied the vision for the company. And a lot of times when your company's extremely small, that CEO is going to be the embodiment of that why. And as a CEO, you need to make sure that everybody, not just the people that are working for you, but the consumer as well, understands what that why is. We could talk about Elon Musk as well. Like Tesla, they don't spend any money on marketing. And the cool thing is, a lot of people are still able to understand what Tesla's why is because it's pretty much the embodiment of Elon Musk as a person, right? His goal, his why is getting to Mars. He wants to make us a multiplanetary species. Okay? Like that's his goal. And as a consumer, it's very obvious why he wakes up every morning. And I think that really helps Tesla and SpaceX as companies because we're able to see what those companies embody, and we're going to be more inclined to purchase a Tesla as a result.
Yeah, where traction sort of takes these marketing channels and tells you, okay, this is what you use. Start with why tells you how to use them. It's this is what you need to be sending out. It's not don't be making Instagram posts telling, oh, these Apple computers have all these processors and features. No one cares. No one cares that your product is technically the best, right? It's going to be the user experience that actually impacts them, and creating that loyalty from your customers only really happens when they understand and trust you because they know why you wake up in the morning. They know why you're doing what you're doing. And so long as if you can convince them and if they can believe that in your why and what you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're selling. They're going to buy from you. They believe in you. And so Start with Why is a really great book that's a great frame of reference for like just thinking about businesses where you always need to go back to why you're doing it, why you're helping people with their problems. Like because if the why becomes, oh, we're just doing this to make money, that's when your company starts falling apart because no one really understands like what direction the company should take because at some point if you're just making more money, you're just taking more from your customers, right? But if your purpose is to challenge the status quo, then that really changes your frame of reference and I think helps you make a lot of business decisions that would be otherwise difficult. In terms of a book I would recommend or resource I would recommend after Start with Why, I'm not sure. Honestly, it might be one on this list, but Kevin, you've read a lot of books. Do you have anything that you think Start with Why is anything like?
You know, I'm not really sure at the moment. You could really make an argument for a few other books that we're about to talk about right now
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm
have a lot to
thinking.
do with why. I think it's a really good segue into the next book, which is book seven,
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning. It does talk a lot about why and what in purpose. This book is by Viktor Frankl. It's a personal development book that, well, first off, some background about Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor, and a lot of what he shares in this book isn't necessarily grounded upon scientific evidence. It has a lot to do with what he saw in the Holocaust in these camps during World War II. But the insights he shares are actually really interesting, and they do make sense when you hear it. And I don't know if I'll, I don't know how many people are actually going to really disagree with this, even though it's not really based on anything scientific. But what he talks about is how when like he noticed that a lot of people that ended up surviving the Holocaust generally had one thing in common. They had something to live for. They had some sort of purpose. And that purpose could have been something like religion. It could have been the fact that they had a wife at home or children at home that they really wanted to see. I think one example that he used was there was this guy in one of the camps that he was in, and he had a dream one night, and in this dream, all of them had escaped the camp on a certain day. Like let's pretend it's like August 30th or something like that. I forgot what specific day it was. And he did a really good job surviving. He was making it day in, day out. And August 30th finally rolled around and they hadn't gotten out of the camps yet. Okay. And then I kid you not, one day after August 30th, he passed away. And the reason why is because at that point he had nothing to live for anymore, you know? Like he had this clear purpose, which was I'm going to make it to August 30th, and once this day comes around, we're all going to be out. That was his purpose at that point. And once the day came around, he had lost all hope. He had nothing to live for anymore, and he gave up, right? He ended up losing his life. And so you can apply this to a lot of different things. If it's some sort of goal that you have, you need to have a strong purpose because you're not going to get from point A to point B if you don't have a strong purpose, if you don't have a strong why, like what Simon Sinek was talking about. You need to make sure that you ask yourself that difficult question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because if you don't have a good answer to that question, the second some sort of adversity hits, I think your odds of fumbling are going to be a lot higher than they would be otherwise.
Definitely. And with research with meaning, it's sort of like never split the difference in that you're not going to find someone with this experience anywhere else. A
Definitely not.
psychologist that survived 4 concentration camps. What are the odds that someone would survive those camps and be able to actually speak to them? Like he has an understanding of psychology and science, but he also understands that this book could not be written from the standpoint of psychology and science because it's an emotional experience for him. That
Yeah.
this is his personal experience and what he believes from this experience. And so, with Man's Search for Meaning, I think if you, it's a really just interesting book that you're not going to find anywhere else, and then you can take that and sort of understand the importance of understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and like be very specific. If your goal is, I want to change the world. Well, why do you want to change the world? And if you really delve into that, you might find out that, oh, there's not actually anything about the world you want to change, right? But you want to be known for changing the world. It's the status you're chasing. Or if your goal is to make a lot of money, what do you really want? Because like money isn't actually real. It's something. It stands in for something else of value, right? And so, what is it actually that you think is so valuable about money? And so, if you can take your goals and then figure out exactly why you're pursuing those goals, and if that becomes your marketing if that becomes your whole company's vision and purpose, that I think is when you and your company start really succeeding and growing. And so that leads us to our eighth book, which is probably the one I would recommend reading after Man's Search for Meaning. I think between Start With Why Man's Search for Meaning and this one, they're all sort of connected. This one is The Alchemist by Paleo Kaleo, which is a fable about following your dreams. It's this young shepherd traveling across the desert to the pyramids because he had a dream that there was gold under them. And it's all just a massive metaphor for entrepreneurship and starting a business and really following any dream. But for me, I think in particular, I see the parallels with entrepreneurship. And so it's a short read, and I would like pick this up this afternoon and just read the whole thing because it's just so good. Um, Really, I think it demonstrates what Gavin was saying, where you need to have that big dream because if you hit some sort of delay, some sort of stumbling block, without a big dream, it's not worth it to overcome that roadblock. It's not worth it. Even though it might be a small speed bump, it's not worth it because you don't have a big enough dream. But really, if you're consistent, that's from Atomic Habits, we know if we're consistent, we can basically achieve anything. And so that's why you need the big dream, because the big dream will give you that consistency, and that consistency will let you actually accomplish the big dream. Like they feed into each other. And so I really, really like The Alchemist, and I think you should check it out.
Yeah, it's a pretty short read. There's an audiobook on YouTube for this, and I want to say it's like 3.5 hours or something, right?
3, 4, yeah, I think I've seen it too.
So you could search up the audiobook on YouTube. It'll be free. So you could put it on like times two speed and you could finish it pretty quick. It's a good one. I definitely recommend. It talks a lot about omens and how you can sort of take these opportunities as they come because they're go if you get yourself out there, these opportunities are going to present themselves, sometimes in weird ways. And you can call it luck, you can call it just you can call it a bunch of different things. We're gonna probably maybe talk about luck later with the Almanack of Naval Ravikant because he has some interesting insights on luck too. But I really like this book because it's about this shepherd, this kid that gets himself out there, and because he got himself out there, because he was following this grandiose dream that he had of getting to the pyramids, he was able to follow a bunch of different wisdom and take all these opportunities that came his way. And if he was sitting on the couch eating a bag of potato chips, he wouldn't have been able to do that, right? And so just getting yourself out there is one of the most important steps that you could take initially because those opportunities again are not going to present themselves if you're not there. Okay. And so just getting yourself out there and being somebody that is in front of a lot of different things. Now, we can get into a long tangent about this, but there are going to be opportunities that you shouldn't take. Okay. You don't want to take every single opportunity that comes your way. Right, BJ?
Nor can you. You can't, is the
You
issue.
can't. You could try. And I think we call that diversified mediocrity if you
Yeah.
do, because you do have to become really good at one or two things eventually. But yeah, this book is really cool because it talks about that adventure, and that adventure is what we're all after. So I think we can relate to it in that sense. But definitely a good read, and you could find it for free on YouTube. So I'd recommend.
Yeah. For my follow up resource for this book, I really don't know. I'm going to say The Odyssey by Homer, right? It's a very. Another work of fiction. However, if we want to. If you want to gripe and complain about your problems, just read that book and realize, it could be worse.
You know, I guess a book that you could say is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And I say that to say that these books talk about really cool journeys in taking opportunities that are in front of you. David Goggins had an insane life, and the reason why his life was so crazy was because he took those opportunities when they presented themselves. And so that's definitely a good read. His story is insane. Like there are multiple points in that book where I was like, what the heck? Like it sounds like this is made up,
Yeah.
but it is a completely true story. And we're gonna have that book on this channel at some point. But highly recommend that one.
Yeah. The next book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Um, Very famous book. It's been around a while. But this guy, similar to $100 Startup, has collected case studies of the most successful people in the world. And he's explaining exactly how these people turn their desires and passions into actual material success and fame and all the other great stuff. So, yeah, if you really just want a quick summary, it's basically you figure out what you're good at and you do that a ton, right? That's all. That's all the secrets of success that can be given. It seems is like throughout all of these books. It's figure out what you're good at, double down on that, help a ton of people, and that's really where you make the most money and succeed. And figuring out, understanding that I think all of this fails if you think that it's somehow not possible when it absolutely is. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of consistency and learning from your mistakes, right? But you absolutely any goal you're thinking of that seems out of reach or impossible, it's absolutely possible, 100%. It's just something about being consistent. If you're consistent and you're learning every day and you're going through iteration after iteration and you're going through these iterations faster and learning from your mistakes, that's when you'll have the most growth. So I think that's the biggest message from Think and Grow Rich is just double down on something and grow that as much as possible.
And then the beginning of the book, he talks a lot about desire and actually translating that into something real. That's really what it comes down to, right? A lot of people have that desire. I remember in one of the early episodes, BJ said that winners and losers have the same goals, which is true, right? They only a percentage of those people are going to actually win or achieve their goals. And that's the hard part, right? The desire needs to be there, okay? Because without the desire, there is no tangible thing, there is no winning, right? So the desire is definitely step one, but the hard part is really getting that into something, getting the idea and actually executing on that idea. So the desire needs to be there, but I'd argue that the execution is more important. It is greater than the actual idea itself. And so getting there is extremely hard. And he does talk about a few ways in which you could do so. One of which is going to be creating a mastermind, which is maybe my biggest takeaway from this book, because you can set yourself up with a bunch of people that have the same dreams as you. Okay. And in pursuit of these dreams, they're going to fail, you're going to fail, and you guys are going to be able to talk about your failures together and you're going to be able to learn a lot quicker. You know, we've used the example of Mr. Beast a lot of times in this podcast, and we're going to use it yet again because it's a great example. He talks about messing up, right? Surrounding yourself with people that are doing something similar to you, that have similar dreams as you. And when they fail at something you haven't tried, they tell you about it. So you never try that thing. Okay. You mess up. It's something they haven't tried. Okay. You tell them about that mess up that you had, and they're able to become a lot more efficient. You're able to become a lot more efficient. You both win, and you've both saved a lot of time as a result. And so that's probably one thing that I'm going to take with me from this book specifically.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned was an Atomic Habits quote, and I think another one was, "You don't rise to the level of your dreams; you fall to the level of your systems." But I think for me, actually, it's not the execution, but it's the desire that is the problem. At least for me, my issue is that I see too many opportunities. I have too many ideas, and I get
Hmm.
easily distracted by things that, oh yeah, there's definitely opportunity there. There's definitely something can be done, and so I'll hop on that one. When really, if I just focused on the same idea, and like that, if I desired that one idea that much and was able to focus, then like, because I think that desire can carry you through a lot of distractions, a lot of difficulties. With the system, anyone can get the system. Like you can pay people on Fiverr and get the system, right? It's the desire, it's the idea that makes the difference, and then it's just about transmuting that desire into actual results, which is what the Alchemist talks about. I mean, that's literally the title, The Alchemist. It's about transmuting, turning lead into gold, turning desire into reality, right? But I mean, both are super important. But if you can figure out either what's easy or you what's easy or what you find easy even though it's difficult simply because you want it that bad, and you'll do whatever it takes, right? Either way, you need something that you can focus on for an extended period of time to succeed at that.
And then a book that goes along with this, I think it's called Seven Habits of Highly Successful People. Is
Yeah,
that it?
yeah. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, I think. Yeah, but
Okay.
uh yeah, good book. I've read it.
Yeah, I haven't personally read it, but uh, BJ was saying solid things about it, and I think it does touch on similar things. The last book, definitely not least, is going to be the Almanack of Naval Ravikant by Eric Jorgensen. And this book, probably my second favorite on the list, I have to say. Naval Ravikant has a lot of really cool things to share. This book is, you could break it down into two main parts. You could break it down into wealth creation and happiness, really. The background with Naval Ravikant, he started off in venture capital and he sort of moved towards the idea of happiness. And I think he did that because, well, the best quote I can give you from this book is probably um, what is the quote again? It's hold on.
Someday you.
It's yeah, okay, it's yeah. One day you'll realize that wealth wasn't what you were chasing in the first place, but that's for another day. Okay? And I think you can see that quote really well in like the trajectory of his life. Like he started off, he became really wealthy and was like, okay, wait, this isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. And now he talks a lot more about happiness and what you can do as an individual to become more happy, right? Because oftentimes you could tell somebody to not chase the money and they probably still will. And so once they get there, once that day happens in the future, it may not be tomorrow, it may not be in a couple years, it may be 20 years from now. Once they get that goal, once that day happens, they'll realize it wasn't as cool as they thought it was going to be initially. It wasn't what they were looking for in the first place. What they were looking for in the first place was happiness because they thought money would give them that. And so this book is really cool because it touches on both. It touches it on the money, which is what a lot of people are after, and then it also touches on what you're really after, which is happiness. So,
I don't think it's necessarily restricted to happiness. I think you pursue the money with the hopes of getting fame. I think you can pursue it with the hopes of getting respect. I think you can do it from the mindset of, oh, I have to provide for my family, and so I'm going to pursue money for that purpose. But really, money is a like very like brute force tool for getting what you want, right? Money is this temporary storage of value, but it's not valuable in and of itself. It's standing in for something else of value, that either a good or service that's been given and is owed, right? And so chasing money, like, I mean, that again, like Gavin said, I think everyone's probably going to do it irregardless of what someone says. But if you can spend your time chasing the thing you're actually after instead of the money, I think you'll achieve more success there. Like, I think if you can figure out what it is you really want, whether that's the fame, whether that's the um, family or the respect or whatever it is, if you can spend more time chasing what it is you're actually after instead of the money, I think that's really when good stuff happens. Because like Mr. Beast, he's chasing the best YouTube videos. He's not worried about the money. He's not worried about anything else. And so with him chasing that, he's able to, all of his decisions are made not, oh, this video is going to generate a lot of money and it has very low expenses, so great. No, he's doing the most expensive idea he can. He's just he makes 2.4 million on a video and he gets paid 2.3 to do it, right? All of his time and attention is just make the best video, make the best video, make the best video, make the best video. And because he's doing that, he's beating everyone else, right? No one else is really able to compete with him. No one else can compete with him in different countries with different languages, because he's entering those markets as well and redubbing his videos in different languages, and those channels are growing super fast. And so I think, like Gavin said, the key takeaway is understanding, what it is you're actually after and going for that. There's a my resource, I guess, for this would be his like 3 hour, 4 hour tweet storm and podcast episode on how to get rich. Just search up Naval how to get rich. It's pretty popular, but it details everything that's said in the book, and a bit more just about how to think about money, how to think about luck, how to think about all these other concepts that really you should understand as you're dealing with them more and more.
Yeah, I think the cool part about this book is it wasn't by Naval, it was by Eric Jorgensen. And the reason why Naval didn't make this book is because he thinks that if you put information like this behind a paywall, it reduces its credibility. So he posts a lot of his stuff for free. It's on YouTube. He has the How to Get Rich podcast. He has another podcast episode about becoming happy, and he thinks becoming a happy person is actually a skill you can learn. He thinks wealth creation is a skill you can learn. He thinks all these things are pretty much skills that you can learn. And so if you read his book and you like what he has to say, you can look at his podcast where you could actually hear himself saying the information, which I think is pretty cool. I actually listened to his podcast before I read the book, and I did really like it. So yeah, that's pretty much the top 10. Again, if I had to pick one book, if you were in like a time crunch and you could only read one, I would probably say Atomic Habits, because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the systems you build to get you from point A to point B, and that's really going to help you build the proper systems. So
Yeah, my number one would probably be The Alchemist. Again, short read, really doubles down on how to think about your life and how to think about your personal destiny, and gives you a ton of little examples on, oh, this is a simple way that he managed to survive this terrible, difficult challenge. But so that's I think The Alchemist is probably one of my favorite books, and it's like a bedtime story. It's fictional. You can read it extremely quickly, and it's a great book. But we just want to make sure everyone's aware that our episodes are now on Spotify. So If you would prefer audio only, then Spotify offers that. Otherwise, you get to look at us.
Yay.
But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you next week at Tuesday at noon. See ya.
Bye bye.